Hey everyone! A few days ago, I published my review of Sumerian 6, a real-time tactics game that turned out way better than I expected. While writing that review, I came across 63 Days, another game of the same style by the creators of War Mongrels, Hatred, and Ancestors' Legacy, Destructive Creations. I was surprised, as I'd never heard of it before, especially being a big fan of the genre. Excited, I reached out to the studio and started playing 63 Days a few days ago. So far, I've completed the first 3 out of 6 missions, half of what War Mongrels offers. I've played with 4 out of the 5 characters. I still need to try Helga, the medic, and I must say, while 63 Days sticks to its genre roots, it raises the bar in terms of realism and difficulty more than any other game in the category. The maps are massive, so each mission feels like doing 2 for various reasons. Firstly, the characters have a limited skill set, meaning you often can't resolve a situation without making the most of the few tools available. For instance, the main characters, Lynx and Youngster, have unique traits. Lynx can attract enemies with sounds or taunts and can perform melee kills if the soldier's fully turned away. Meanwhile, Youngster throws stones to distract groups of soldiers and can take down enemies by throwing a knife, though the sound radius is a disadvantage. Ironically, Lynx, despite being the strongest, can't climb vines but can carry dead bodies, while Youngster can climb but can't even drag bodies while crouching like in other games. Being the weaker one, he also can't throw grenades or use bolt cutters, though he can use firearms and carry heavy objects, like in Mission 2. Which seems contradictory, but you accept these character limitations in this type of game. Then there's Henyu, the small kid with a baseball bat, who can stun enemies but never kill them, no matter how many times he swings. He can also push soldiers and crawl through narrow gaps. 63 Days stands out because of its realism, not only in terms of animations and common sense, but also its pacing, which is much slower than most games. The enemy placements are so well thought out that 63 Days feels like the Dark Souls of the genre, especially if you play on hard. Very hard is just masochistic. Despite its stealth and tactical foundations, the game doesn't punish you for taking a more offensive approach when necessary. For example, the 4th character, Storm, is a scout who can take down multiple enemies within a radius, similar to Mugen in Shadow Tactics or Wojtek in Sumerian 6, but using a submachine gun. Any gunfire has a wide audible range, so cutting alarm wires, keeping an eye on nearby enemies, and using the planning and combat modes efficiently is crucial, as you'll see in the video of the end of Mission 2. Because of that, I wouldn't recommend 63 Days to anyone who hasn't played Commandos, Desperados, or any of Mimimi's games. Even on normal difficulty, it's a few notches above in terms of challenge. As many of you know, in this genre, each enemy is like a mini puzzle to solve. Here, those puzzles are even more complex, and you'll need to rack your brain repeatedly. I often found myself spending several minutes examining the map from different angles, something that doesn't happen as often in other real-time tactics games, and I've played them all. Even though there are only 6 maps or chapters, plus a tutorial, I think the strength of 63 Days is its deep tactical focus. It's like comparing Counter-Strike 2 with Arma 3 or Forza Motorsport with Assetto Corsa. Mimimi's games, or Sumerian 6, might be more like the arcade variants, while 63 Days feels more like a simulator, or at least a simcade. There are mechanics, like retrieving Youngster's knife, that can feel annoying due to their realism or imprecise controls, like having to move bodies with Lynx to find the knife. I think this was done deliberately to maintain the simulation vibe without skipping character animations. It would be more convenient for the character to pick up the knife automatically when you walk over it, like with Teresa the Blind's bolts in Shadow Gambit, or Siegfried von Adelsberg in Sumerian 6. When I first started I had 63 Days, I noticed it had the same controls as War Mongrels, selecting characters with F1, F5, and using abilities with the number keys, which I don't really like since I'm used to more traditional controls, especially after finishing Sumerian 6 recently. But fortunately, Destructive Creations included an RTS-style control option, where you select characters with numbers and use abilities with keys like A, S, D, G, etc. Even with that relief, I must admit It takes time to get used to the controls. The character's abilities aren't as instant as in other games, which is why I said earlier it lacks the fluidity of Mimimi's games. It tries to be more realistic or believable overall. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just different, as each character takes time to execute their skills, with much more polished animations compared to other games. As you'll see in the images and the brief video from the end of the second mission, showing only the second part of the map, the graphics perfectly match the realism. Built on Unreal Engine 4 and only taking up 7 gigabytes of space, 63 Days not only looks better than War Mongrels, but also surpasses any other game in the genre. The attention to detail in every corner of the map and the lighting is simply on another level. Each map is a true work of art and a visual treat for any fan of the genre or games in general.